Okay, Jobin's Vaginas. Finally got this shit set up. Fucking Sugar's got the good 4K camera, so I was trying to go everywhere to find a fucking 4K camera. So when I do these videos, the quality's good. And it's not shit. And it's not a fucking pain in the ass to watch or listen. Because hopefully you guys like the solo videos. If you don't, then don't watch. Okay, no biggie. It's Wednesday. We just got done with the podcast. I thought it was a fucking good ass podcast. Real good. If you guys hear some banging and shit in the background, the floors are getting redone in our house because trying to sell it. So sorry about that. But oh yeah, Sunday we're starting for the Patreon people. Patreon only pod. Me and Sugar going over different tweets, different fight shit, just for the Patreon people. We want to keep pumping the content out for you guys. And when you guys comment below and stuff and tell me what kind of content you guys want, that helps out a ton. Whether it's MMA techniques, the food shit, optimizing our health, obviously, whatever it is, comment below. And if you guys like all of it, then that's fucking cool too. Just like supporting. That's some good shit. But the topic today for the solo pod, I was thinking, I've been reading this book called Ray Dalio's Principles, it's called. And he's this billionaire investor guy. And it's a really, really fucking good book. A really good book. So I'm just going to go across some of the parts that I think some Jobins and Vaginas can improve from. Because I feel like with communicating, if you can learn to communicate, whether it's with your girlfriend, your fucking parents, whether it's with your manager at work, whether it's with anyone, and you're good at communicating, it's going to improve your life. Sorry, guys. These things are fucking annoying. I sound like a dipshit with them. These things are a bitch, by the way. I got to put a new set in every 2 days, and they're tighter than fuck. But I'm getting used to it already. Not that bad. But back to communicating. Yeah. Whether it's you're wanting to get good at jiu-jitsu and you can communicate good to your professor and tell him what you don't understand and ask him questions and just get good at communicating. It's going to improve your whole fucking life. And there's not many, I don't know. I didn't learn it in elementary. I didn't learn it in high school. My parents weren't the best at communicating, so I didn't really get to learn it from anyone. I had to find a book and find out for myself. But this book, the first part of the book is a lot about business and his business ventures, like, so it's kind of boring. But if you skip to the middle, that's when he starts getting into like his life principles and his work principles and stuff. So this is just a summary, and then I'm going to go over the parts that I thought were really good. Summary and tables of life principles. Think for yourself to decide what you want, what is true, and what should you do to achieve number one, the light of number two. Do that with humility and open-mindedness so that you consider the best thinking available to you. Okay, these are the ones I underlined. So 1.3 says, be radically open-minded and radically transparent. So that's the summary, and then I'm going to go to the page where it talks about that. Radically open-minded and radically transparent. None of us are born knowing what is true. We either have to discover what's true for ourselves or believe and follow others. The key is to know which path will yield better results. I believe that radical open-mindedness and radical transparency are invaluable for rapid learning and effective change. Learning is the product of continuous real-time feedback loop in which we make decisions, see our outcomes, and improve our understanding of reality as a result. Being radically open-minded enhances the efficiency of those feedback loops because it makes what you are doing and why so clear to yourself and others that there can't be any misunderstandings. The more open-minded you are, the less likely you are to deceive yourself, and the more likely it is that others will give you honest feedback if they are believable people. And it's very important to know who's believable. You will learn a lot from them. Okay. You shouldn't assume that you are always the best person to make a decision for yourself, because often you aren't. While it is up to us to know what we want, others may know how to get it better than we do because they have strengths where we have weaknesses, or more relevant knowledge and more experience. Yeah, that's what goes without saying, obviously. Like, I want to get a good jujitsu. So I don't fucking know jujitsu. I'm not going to trust YouTube on my jujitsu. I'm going to find the best guy at jujitsu around me and learn from him and train with him and feel what he does and feel the pace he puts on and see how he trains and really learn from him. So it says, for example, it's probably better for you to follow your doctor's advice than your own if you have a medical condition, which is like, fuck, sometimes, I guess. Later in this book, we will look at some of the different ways people's brains are wired and how our understanding of our own wiring should influence which choices we make for ourselves and which we should delegate to others. Knowing when not to make your own decisions is one of the most important skills you can develop. I'll explain the concept of believability in more details in later chapters. So next ones I wanted to pull up. Yeah, is the 1.6. But back to the radically open-minded one. This one's big for me too, because it's hard, especially when you're around your parents all the time. Sometimes our parents are the most closed-minded fucking people, and they don't see it. They're just so stuck in their ways, and they didn't have the internet. They didn't grow up with all this stuff where we can actually learn real shit. So they're just kind of stuck in their ways and thinking they know best, which sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. 1.6. Understand nature's practical lessons. Remember, no pain, no gain. Page 152. One sec. Hopefully this shit's not boring. It's gonna get better. It's gonna get better. Okay. It is a fundamental law of nature that in order to gain strength, one has to push one's limits, which is painful. That's the fucking truth too. Like as soon as you get a black belt in jiu-jitsu, say, you are not done getting good at jiu-jitsu. I feel like when I got my black belt, I'm like, damn, I feel like I'm still just getting started. And I'm trying to find guys that are beating my ass. Like I could hang out at my academy all day at just the normal classes, go with white belts and blue belts and just think I'm the man because I'm beating up these white belts and blue belts. But I know that to gain strength, I have to keep pushing myself and I have to be finding different black belts or bringing different wrestlers or bringing different guys that can challenge me and beat me up. Yeah, I know it's hard on my ego. It's easy to stroke the ego when you're in the jiu-jitsu academy beating everyone up, but that's not how I'm going to get better. The way I'm going to get better is finding guys that are better than me in different areas. Like that wrestler from Kyrgyzstan. I knew he was really good wrestler. I was watching him. I was like, damn, this motherfucker is good. So I hit him up on Insta. I said, hey, you want to train with just me? Showed up at the gym and we fucking trained hard for a half hour, live goes. And he fucking tossed me a few times. It was pretty sweet. So like my passion is grappling in jiu-jitsu and just making myself better. So I'm constantly trying to find guys that are better than me in all those areas that I can pick and learn from, because I think I know a decent amount, but fuck, in the scheme of things, I literally know nothing. I don't know shit. Like I know a little tiny bit. As Carl Jung put it, man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health. Yet most people instinctually avoid pain. This is true whether we are talking about building the body, weightlifting, or the mind, frustration, mental struggle, embarrassment, and shame. And especially true when people confront the harsh reality of their own imperfections. Pain plus reflection equals progress. There is no avoiding pain, especially if you're going after ambitious goals. Believe it or not, you are lucky to feel that kind of pain if you approach it correctly, because it is a signal. See, now they're fucking sawing the floor out there. God damn it. Hope it doesn't sound like shit, guys. Believe it or not, you are lucky to feel that kind of pain if you approach it correctly, because it's a signal that you need to find solutions so you can progress. If you can develop a reflexive reaction to psychic pain that causes you to reflect on it rather than avoid it, it will lead to your rapid learning evolving. After seeing how much more effective it is to face the painful realities that are caused by your problems, mistakes, and weaknesses, I believe you won't want to operate any other way. It's just a matter of getting in the habit of doing it. Most people have a tough time reflecting when they are in pain, and they pay attention to other things when the pain passes, so they miss out on the reflections that provide the lessons. If you can reflect well while you're in pain, which is probably too much to ask, great. But if you can, remember to reflect after it passes. That's valuable too. The challenges you face will test and strengthen you. If you're not failing, you're not pushing your limits. And if you're not pushing your limits, you're not maximizing your potential. Dude, that is the fucking truth. That is the truth. There's not a point, especially in like mixed martial arts, there's not a point when you're so good that there's no one can beat you up and there's nothing you can learn. That's why I love it so much. There's always someone who can beat you up. There's always someone who's better than you. And there's always like, it's an infinite amount of shit you can learn. Though this process of pushing your limits, of sometimes failing and sometimes breaking through and deriving benefits from both your failures and your success, it's not for everyone. If it is for you, it can be so thrilling that it becomes addictive. Life will inevitably bring you such moments, and it'll be up to you to decide whether you want to go for more. If you choose to push through this often painful process of personal evolution, you will naturally ascend to higher and higher levels. As you climb above the blizzard of things that surrounds you, you will realize that they seem bigger than they really are when you are seeing them up close. That most things in life are just another one of those. The higher you ascend, the more effective you become at working with reality, shape outcomes towards your goals. What once seemed impossibly complex becomes pretty simple. Go to pain rather than avoid it. If you don't let up on yourself and instead become comfortable, always operating with some level of pain, you will evolve at a faster pace. That's the thing. Instead become comfortable always operating with some level of pain, and you will evolve at a faster pace. That's just the way it is. That's fucking nice. That's nice because that's the truth too. And one thing I think the cold water and that cold plunge fucking helps me with. And Mariah even said it helped her in some of her tournaments. But you get in that cold plunge and your mind is racing, it's panicking, it's telling your body, stop, stop, stop. But you have to just chill, counter those thoughts, and become comfortable with it. And it's the same thing you do when you're grappling or when you're in MMA. You get so fucking tired and it's chaotic, and your mind's telling your body, stop, or find a way to stop this, or get out, save yourself. But you got to counter it and just become comfortable. Be like, it's okay. I'm in here and I'm used to it. I'm used to this pain and I'm comfortable in this pain. Every time you confront something painful, you're a potentially important juncture in your life. You are at a potentially important juncture in your life. You have the opportunity to choose healthy and painful truth or unhealthy but comfortable delusion. The irony is that if you choose the healthy route, the pain will soon turn into pleasure. The pain is a signal, like switching from not exercising to exercising. Developing the habit of embracing the pain and learning from it will get you to the other side. By getting to the other side, I mean that you will become hooked on identifying, accepting, and learning how to deal with your weaknesses, preferring that people around you be honest with you rather than keep their negative thoughts about you to themselves, being yourself rather than having to pretend to be strong where you are weak. This could be the worst fucking day to do this goddamn thing because that saw in the background. Hopefully it's not such a pain in the ass. I'm going to listen to a little bit after this, and if it sounds like shit, I'll just take it off. Okay. Of course, most people would prefer not to have weaknesses. Our upbringings and our experiences in the world have conditioned us to embarrassed by our weaknesses and hide them. But people are happiest when they can be themselves. You can be open with your weakness. It will make you freer and will help you deal with them better. I urge you to not be embarrassed about your problems. Recognize that everyone has them. Bringing them to the surface will help you break your bad habits, and develop good ones. And you will acquire real strength and justifiable optimism. At some point in your life, you will crash in a big way. You might fail at a job or with your family, lose a loved one, suffer a serious accident or illness, or discover the life you imagine is out of reach forever. There are a whole host of ways that something will get you. At such times, you will be in pain and might think that you don't have the strength to go on. You almost always do. However, your ultimate success will depend on realizing that fact, even though it might not seem that way at the moment. The quality of your life will depend on the choices you make at those painful moments. God, that's good too. Anytime you're in pain, like all the injuries I've went through, tearing my biceps, both knee surgeries, tearing both my biceps, breaking my jaw, fucking hundreds of injuries these past 10 years. Like I feel like it's never going to end. The quality of your life will depend on the choices you make at those painful moments. Those painful moments, they end. They end. I was just talking about on the last podcast. And once they end and after you recover from them, your mind has gotten stronger and you come out of them more optimistic and more happy. The faster one appropriately adapts, the better. No matter what you want in life, your ability to adapt and move quickly and efficiently through the process of personal evolution will determine your success and your happiness. If you do it well, you can change your psychological reaction to it so that what was painful can become something you crave. That's it, too. In previous podcasts, I've said any workout that you go to and you push yourself so hard that it goes through your mind you want to quit. It goes through your mind like, fuck, I want to quit right now. And then you don't quit. You counter it and you push through. You push past your limits. Any workout you do that, it's a good fucking workout. If you do it well, you can change your psychological reaction to it so that what was painful can become something you crave. That's fucking money. Craving those hard workouts. Craving when your professor or whatever says, hey, we're rolling 5 rounds in a row. Stay tough. Or craving going on that run and pushing it harder than you pushed it before. Craving getting tired and getting used to getting tired and being super comfortable when your heart rate's 170, 180, 190 and things are hectic. Just being comfortable there because you've been there a lot. You crave being there. Own your outcomes. Whatever circumstance life brings you, you will be more likely to succeed and find happiness if you take responsibility for making your decisions well instead of complaining about things being beyond your control. Psychologists call this having internal locus of control, and studies consistently show that people who have it outperform those who don't. One point, I think this was in there. Let me see here. Sorry, Jobinettes, as Kyle calls them. Pain reflection equals progress. Where are we at here? E. Okay, let me go to E. This book's fat and just filled with fucking information. Okay, we'll go to E. Successful people are those who can go above themselves to see things objectively and manage those things to shape change. They can take in the perspectives of others instead of being trapped in their own heads with their own biases. They're able to look objectively at what they are like, their strengths and their weaknesses, and what others are like to put the right people in the right roles to achieve their goals. Once you understand how to do this, you'll see that there's virtually nothing you can't accomplish. If you are disappointed because you can't be the best person to do everything yourself, you are terribly naive. Yeah, if you want to do things at a high level, you got to have people at a high level in all the areas and learn from all them, for sure. You need to get over all that and stop seeing struggling as something negative. Most of life's greatest opportunities come out of those moments of struggle. When encountering your weaknesses, you have 4 choices. You can deny them, which is what most people do. You can accept them and work at them in order to try to convert them into strengths, which might or might not work depending on your ability to change. You can accept your weaknesses and find ways around them, or you can change what you are going after. Let me see what else we're on here. God damn it. There's just so much in this fucking book. It's hard to keep track of everything. H. If you're open-minded enough and determined, you can get virtually anything you want. So I certainly don't want to dissuade you from going after what you want. At the same time, I urge you to reflect on whether you're going after it consistent with your nature, whatever your nature is. There are many paths that will suit you, so don't fixate on just one. Should a particular path close, all you have to do is find another good one consistent with what you're like. You'll learn a lot about how to determine what you're like later and understand that people are wired very differently. Okay, let me go to this next one. I want to get to this one where it talks about open-mindedness and how to see whether people are open-minded or not. So page 187. Like I said, hopefully you like this, guys. I'm just doing these random book reviews of shit that stuck out to me. If you don't like it, that's okay. Just don't watch. Okay? Practical, radical open-mindedness. If you know that you're blind, you can figure out a way to see. Whereas if you don't know that you are blind, you will continue to bump into your problems. In other words, if you can recognize that you have blind spots and open-mindedly consider the possibility that others might see something better than you, and that the threats and opportunities they are trying to point out really exist, you are more likely to make good decisions. Radical open-mindedness is motivated by the genuine worry that you might not be seeing your choices optimally. It is the ability to effectively explore different points of view and different possibilities without letting your ego or your blind spots get in your way. It requires you to replace your attachment to always being right with the joy of learning what's true. Fucking good shit there. Radically open-minded people know that coming up with the right questions and asking other smart people what they think is important as having all the answers. Taking in others' perspectives in order to consider them in no way reduces your freedom to think independently and make your own decisions. It will just broaden your perspective as you make them. Don't worry about looking good. Worry about achieving your goal. Why do they behave in this unproductive way? It's generally because they believe the senseless but common view that great people have all the answers and don't have any weaknesses. I'm trying to think if I even put that fucking on there. I keep losing track of my shit. Sorry. A, B, C, D, E. Okay. Realize that you can't put out without taking in. Most people seem much more eager to put out and say their fucking their point of view and their perspective, convey their thinking and be productive, then take in and learn. That's a mistake, even if one's primary goal is to put out, because what one puts out won't be good unless one takes in as well. Recognize that to gain the perspective that comes from seeing things through another's eyes, you must suspend judgment for a time. Only by empathizing can you properly evaluate another point of view. Open-mindedness doesn't mean going along with what you don't believe in. It means considering the reasoning of others instead of stubbornly and illogically holding on to your own point of view. To be radically open-minded, you need to be so open to the possibility that you could be wrong that you encourage others to tell you so. One sec.
Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Hi, will you unlock our bedroom door?
Yeah, I'm in the process of doing a pod vid right now.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
I'm just in the kitchen, and I just don't want the dogs to go across the.
Okay.
So.
All right. Thank you. All right. Bye. Love you. Bye.
Love you, bye.
It's okay. It's okay. We're back. And G. Okay. This is good. Be clear on whether you're arguing or seeking to understand, and think about which is most appropriate based on you and others' believability. When he talks about believability, he talks about, okay, if I talk to a person who's been in a fuckload of fights, 30 MMA fights, well, they're going to have a little bit of believability towards fighting because they've been a part of it. They've experienced it. They've gone through it. So they're going to have more believability than some guy who sat there and watched 1,000 fights but never been in any. So figuring out who has more believability and who has more experience in each area. If you have different view than someone who is believable on the topic at hand, or at least more believable than you are. If you say you are in discussion with your doctor about your health, you should make it clear that you're asking questions because you're seeking to understand their perspective. Conversely, if you are clearly the more believable person, you might politely remind the other of that and suggest that they ask you questions. Radically open-minded. G 3.3. Appreciate the art of thoughtful disagreement. This is good too. When two people believe opposite things, chances are that one of them is wrong. It pays to find it if that someone is you. God, that's good too. Because there could be things you have a stance on that you don't even know why you have a stance on it. You just heard your parents say it a long time ago. So you're like, oh, once that subject comes up somewhere in your mind that your parents said a long time ago, that's your thoughts on it. So when two people believe opposite things, chances are that one of them is wrong. It pays to find out if that someone is you. That's why I believe you must appreciate and develop the art of thoughtful disagreement. In thoughtful disagreement, your goal is not to convince the other party that you are right. It is to find out which view is true and decide what to do about it. That's fucking good. That's really good. To do this well, approach the conversation in ways that conveys that you're just trying to understand. Use questions rather than make statements. Conduct the discussion in a calm, dispassionate manner. Encourage the other person to do that as well. Remember, you are not arguing. You are openly exploring what's true. If you are calm, collegial, and respectful, you will do a lot better than if you are not. You'll get better at this with practice. To me, it's pointless when people get angry with each other when they disagree, because most disagreements aren't threats as much as opportunities for learning. People who change their minds because they learn something are the winners, whereas those who stubbornly refuse to learn are the losers. That doesn't mean that you should blindly accept others' conclusions. You should be what I call open-minded and assertive at the same time. You should hold and explore conflicting possibilities in your mind while moving fluidly toward whatever is likely to be true based on what you learn. One way to do this is by asking questions like, would you rather I be open with my thoughts and questions or keep them to myself? Are we going to try to convince each other that we are right? Or are we going to open-mindedly hear each other's perspectives to try to figure out what's true and what to do about it? Or are you arguing with me or seeking to understand my perspective? That's good. Are you fucking arguing with me? Or are you trying to see my perspective? And the same goes for me to you. You need to teach yourself the art of having exchanges in ways that don't trigger such reactions in yourself, like bad reactions. Holding wrong opinions in one's head and making bad decisions based on them instead of having thoughtful disagreements is one of the greatest tragedies of mankind. Oh yeah, this is the page I wanted you guys to read. It talks about, okay, close, and you guys are gonna, when I talk about closed-minded people, you're gonna think about a lot of people in your lives probably. Closed-minded people don't want their ideas challenged. They are typically frustrated that they can't get the other person to agree with them instead of curious as why the other person disagrees. Open-minded people are more curious about why there is a disagreement. They are not angry when someone disagrees. They understand that there's always a possibility that they might be wrong and that it's worth the little bit of time it takes to consider the other person's views in order to be sure they aren't missing something or making a mistake. Like I said, I like doing these book reviews because it makes me review shit too and go over the stuff multiple times because it's quality stuff to learn, I think. And I'm still working on it, and I try to spread it to the people I care about so they can learn to communicate and try not to be closed-minded, because it is a fucking weakness being closed-minded. You're cutting yourself off from learning anything new, and it's just like you're stuck where you're at now. Open-minded people genuinely believe they could be wrong. The questions that they ask are genuine. They also assess their relative believability to determine whether their primary role should be as a student or a teacher or a peer. That's what I like about jujitsu. Other things everyone chips in their 2 cents. You could have an expert mechanic and then some kid who's changed oil a few times, and the kid that changed oil a few times is fucking giving the mechanic advice or saying, well, I do it this way. It's like, dude, well, you're brand new. That's why I like jujitsu. It's like, okay, this guy's a black belt. You rarely, still, I learn random things from seeing white belts move and the moves they're doing, but you don't see a white belt telling the black belt, well, I do it this way. It's like, dude, well, you're a white belt and you have very little experience. That's why you're not super believable when it comes to this subject. If the guy has a black belt on, he's probably pretty believable on the subject. Closed-minded people focus much more on being understood than understanding others. When people disagree, they tend to be quicker to assume that they aren't being understood than to consider whether they're the ones who are not understanding the other person's perspective. Open-minded people always feel compelled to see things through others' eyes. That's good. That's another powerful one, I think. I think that's a big reason why Mariah and I's relationship is so good, is because trying to see things where she's coming from as a girl, as a little female, and then her trying to see things where I'm coming from, a fucking horned up guy who's a bull. Closed-minded people say things like, I could be wrong, but here's my opinion. This is a classic cue I hear all the time. It's often perfunctory gesture that allows people to hold their own opinion while convincing themselves that they're being open-minded. If your statement starts with, I could be wrong, or I'm not believable, you should probably follow it with a question, not an assertion. Open-minded people know when to make statements and when to ask questions. I like this one. Closed-minded people block others from speaking. If it seems like someone isn't leaving space for the other person in a conversation, it's possible they're blocking. To get around blocking, enforce the 2-minute rule I mentioned earlier. Open-minded people are always more interested in listening than in speaking. They encourage others to voice their views. Closed-minded people have trouble holding two thoughts simultaneously in their mind. They allowed their own view to crowd out those of others. It's a good one too. Fuck. Open-minded people can take in thoughts of others without losing their ability to think well. They can hold two or more conflicting concepts in their mind and go back and forth between them to assess their relative merits. Ooh, I like this one. I shouldn't have skipped it. I'll go back to it. Closed-minded people lack a deep sense of humility. Humility typically comes from experience of crashing, which leads to an enlightened focus on knowing what one doesn't know. Open-minded people approach everything with a deep-seated fear that they may be wrong. A few good decision makers working effectively together can significantly outperform a good decision maker working alone. And even the best decision maker can significantly improve his or her decision making with the help of other excellent decision makers. Understand how you can become radically open-minded. Regularly use pain as your guide toward quality reflection. Mental pain often comes from being too attached to an idea when a person or event comes along to challenge it. So, like, before I'd get so pissed off when people start talking about weed. But it's like, at the same time, it's like, I don't fucking know all the research on weed. There could be other research that I don't know. There could be other smart motherfuckers that I don't know. Other people could come at me with their perspective where they're coming from on the stance of weed. So I try and I still work on it, doing the best I can at being fucking open-minded and seeing why people are thinking that way and not automatically being like, what? You don't agree with me? Fucking retard. This is especially true when what is being pointed out to you involves weakness on your part. This kind of mental pain is a clue that you are potentially wrong and that you need to think about the question in a quality way. To do this, first calm yourself down. This can be difficult. You will probably feel your amygdala kicking in through a tightening in your head, a tension in your body, or an emerging sense of annoyance, anger, or irritability. Note these feelings when they arise in you. Make being open-minded a habit. The life that you will live is most simply the results of the habits you develop. We always fucking talk about that. And it's so fucking true. And if you guys have trouble like starting your habits, or you're like, fuck, I just read James Clear, Atomic Habits. He'll teach you how to start good habits in little different ways of looking at it. If you consistently use feelings of anger and frustration as cues to calm down, slow down, and approach the subject at hand thoughtfully, over time you'll experience negative emotions much less frequently and go directly to the open-minded practices I just described. Of course, this can be very hard for people to do in the moment because your lower level you emotions are so powerful. They talk about the higher level you looking at it from the outside perspective, not from your eyes and your brain, looking at it from the outside. And they talk about in this one, meditate. Um, he says in here, I practice transcendental meditation, and I believe that it has enhanced my open-mindedness and higher level perspective, equanimity, and creativity. It helps slow things down so that I can act calmly even in the face of chaos. Just like a ninja in a street fight, I'm not saying that you have to meditate in order to develop this perspective. I'm just saying I'm just passing along that it has helped me and many other people, and I recommend that you seriously consider exploring it. And we fucking sugar and I agree with that because we've gotten so much benefits out of it. This is good. Be evidence-based and encourage others to do the same. Most people do not look thoughtfully at the facts and draw their conclusions by objectively weighing the evidence. Instead, they make their decisions based on what their deep-seated subconscious mind wants, and then they filter the evidence to make it consistent with those desires. It is possible to become aware of the subconscious process happening and to catch yourself or to allow others to catch you going down this path. When you're approaching a decision, ask yourself, can you point to clear facts? Facts believable people wouldn't dispute, leading to your view. If not, chances you are not being evidence-based. Like, I'm trying to think, probably like Sean's mom. She wouldn't even have a conversation about marijuana. She wouldn't sit down and say, hey, let's have a conversation about marijuana and let's make it evidence-based only by what the science says. She'd say, nope, which sucks. And I feel like that's a sickness. That's a certain sickness that people can get in. Do everything in your power to help others be also open-minded. Being calm and reasonable in how you present your view will help prevent the flight or fight animal amygdala reaction in others. Be reasonable and expect others to be reasonable. Ask them to point out the evidence that supports their point of view. Remember, it is not an argument, it is an open exploration of what's true. Demonstrating that you are taking in what they're telling you can be helpful. Guys, I could go on and on with this book. I'll end it with this. Are you up for the challenge? For me, there's really only one big choice to make in life. Are you willing to fight to find out what's true? Do you deeply believe that finding out what is true is essential to your well-being? Do you have a genuine need to find out if you or others are doing something wrong that is standing in the way of achieving your goals? If your answer to any of these questions is no, accept that you will never live up to your potential. If, on the other hand, you are up for the challenge of becoming radically open-minded, the first step is to look at yourself objectively. In the next chapter, understand that people are wired very differently, and you'll have the chance to do just that. And this next chapter is good as fuck too, but I don't want to make this video too long. Like I said, this could be over some of your guys' heads, but I think if you got through that video, there's got to be one little piece, maybe a couple of things that can help improve, because I think it's impossible to not run into people that aren't closed-minded, and learn how to communicate with those closed-minded people and not letting your emotions get so pissed off and getting screaming matches with your parents or your partner. Just learning how to communicate. Like I said, that book's fucking good. If you guys enjoyed that, there's a ton more gems in there like that. It's too big of a book. I couldn't go over all of it right now, or the video would be too long. But that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Tomorrow, we're going to start doing content on Thursdays for like techniques, MMA techniques, other shit. So then we can keep it popping. And like I said, Sunday, we're doing our Patreon only pod where we're going to go in the stewed Go over maybe a couple of my KOs, some of Sean KOs, maybe watch some of your guys' sparring, watch some of your guys' videos, go over tweets, and just fuck around, have some fun. Might as well get out the content. Especially you Patreon people are our main supporters and cool as fuck. So, all right, that's it. Let me know if you like it. If not, no big. Pieces.